Our mobile phones are great interrupters. And I was at this point, the object for this week was a mobile phone, if you're into Instagram, as I know many of you are at this point, and Facebook and all the rest of it. But my phones are all in use at this point. There is one who is hot spotting to allow us to see the videos up there, another one that's up over there that is showing the platform view out to Zoom just now. But they are great interrupters. And I've had to switch the Bluetooth off on my phone so that my mobile texts and incoming calls don't get flagged up on this connected laptop and feed through into Zoom and livestream. So I've had to sort out all these interruptions beforehand. But not all interruptions are a problem. Through the wee device that we call a mobile phone, I've had some very difficult news and interruptions that have been hard and disorientating over this last year. Interruptions which I don't want to hear. But I've also had some beautiful, life-affirming and joyful interruptions, such as the news this week from Cara, coming in a phone call to share in the news that she'd passed accreditation just as I was opening up a Zoom chat. It was a joyful interruption. Or there's a cryptic one that came in on my WhatsApp a short time ago. We have made soup. And no other explanation needed on that point. Or all the texted words of encouragement after a morning service. Interruptions can be joyful as well as difficult. And this moment of the Spirit moving among the disciples at Pentecost is an interruption. It is significant, it is disruptive, it is life-changing. I thought it would be interesting in the Wednesday podcast to film it near some building works which aren't too far away. If you saw it, there are some street works, and I walked up and down and did the filming close to all this. There was disruption, there were lives being interrupted, but new things were being built. And that seems to me a pointer to what is taking place here. I even got interrupted in the making of it by the building team, one with he felt his face warranted being in the shot, and he felt he should be in the filming of it. But interruptions can open up all sorts of possibilities. And the podcast opened up towards this joyful moment of interruption in Acts 2 as a challenge. We've got used to interruptions over this last year. And the question that I felt coming through on Wednesday was this: are we ready for the interruptions of the Spirit of God in these next days as moments of possibility, as moments where God is moving in ways that are beyond all that we expect, and yet also in ways that are those in the streets and beyond the upper room of disciples? Are we ready for that opening up of the gift of Jesus? What happens when we start to expect the Lord to interrupt us? What happens when we begin to expect the Spirit to move over us, for the fire of the Lord to burn in our hearts and to see change? What happens at that point? Can I just say at this point, it's a delight to see George Clarkson up the back here in his normal seat. Everybody else may have moved around, but George is in the seat he is meant to be in at the back there. It's fantastic. You are such an encouragement, George, to be here amongst us this morning. But many things change and many things alter. And what happens when we expect the Lord to interrupt us in things? On this day in Pentecost, there are two groups of people. There are those who are waiting in the upper room expectantly, just wanting the Father to work, to give this gift of the Father promised by Jesus. They don't know what is going to happen. They know something has been promised. They don't know the details or what it's going to look like, but they are together and they're praying and they're waiting and they're expecting. And on the other side, out in the streets, were those who were not expecting. They are going about their lives, gathering for the Feast of Pentecost, as they'd done year on year on year. Everyday life was taking place with all of its joys and difficulties. I don't know if they had coffee at that point, but I'm going to take a wee coffee just now. It's been a long time since I had to preach out loud like this. It's usually a conversation in front of Zoom. But they were not expecting an interruption, these ones in the streets. There was no waiting for this to happen, no waiting for the Spirit to bring burning hearts and burning heads. This interruption of the Spirit of God happens and it's full of transforming joy and life and boldness, but it begins with those who are gathered and expecting the gift of it, and then others in the streets who are not expecting. And we might expect that those who are in the upper room, who are praying and waiting and expecting, are those who will be blessed in the gift that is coming, in the interruption that happens. And they are, but here is the joyful thing, that this gift, this interruption, the hearts are burning for the Lord. They are taking the blessing out onto the streets to those who are not expecting. The gift of the Spirit is outward facing. And just to drive that point home, this immediate and first interruption of the Spirit of Pentecost is to speak in those ways that those in the streets hear and understand. Those who are not expecting or waiting or looking, suddenly they hear these people are speaking in ways that they understand. They are speaking in their language, in all their languages. And there is this explosion of understanding. And yet they don't know what is going on. They hear but aren't yet hearing. This street work of the Spirit is like plowing the fields for the seeds of Peter's words, which will be spoken soon, to fall in, to plant and grow them to faith. But that plowing begins with words that make sense, words that are understood in the language of Chris Brown a few moments ago in the video. These words are spoken in the language not of church but of people. But in this beautiful picture, who are we? We are those in the upper. This year it is a glory to be coming out of isolation and separation around this time of Pentecost over these weeks, because of this movement of the Spirit outwards. I am full of questions for us in these moments, but uppermost in my heart is this: are we expecting our lives to be gifted with such burning hearts by the Spirit as we come here together, as we gather in our upper room here? What are we expecting for these days, for these times? Are we looking to Pentecost hearts which seek and expect the Spirit, which look for the gift of these moments? What is it that we are hoping for, waiting for, expecting the Lord to move, to gift, to provide in these next few weeks? There is this wonderful pattern in the Psalms of expecting. Psalm 5 says, "In the morning, Lord, you hear my voice. In the morning, I lay my request before you, and I wait expectantly." Psalm 27 says, "I am confident of this. I will see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living." Wait for the Lord. Be strong. Take heart. Wait for the Lord. And Psalm 130, "I wait for the Lord. My whole being waits, and in his word I put my hope." There are words which are full of hope and waiting and expecting. But in Pentecost, that hoping and waiting and expecting gets turned upside down. There is a new interruption in the way that is coming, because the gift is given in this time of waiting and praying. The gift is given that is so life-transforming, that it is given not simply to those who are waiting, but is given to those who are not hoping, not expecting, not waiting. The gift comes to those in the streets in ways that they understand. The Spirit comes as a gift to be given out in ways that can be heard. And there is a beautiful modeling of this in Acts 16, where Paul and his companions have come across to Macedonia, and they're there in the city of Philippi. And let me just read from Acts 16 what takes place then. On the Sabbath, we went outside to the city gate, to the river, where we expected to find a place of prayer. And we sat down, began to speak to the women who'd gathered there. And one of those listening was a woman from the city of Thyatira named Lydia, dealer in purple cloth. She was a worshipper of God, and the Lord opened our heart to the message. This is the work of the Spirit, to move us from the upper rooms, to move us from the places where we are to places where we can gather expectantly towards where others are gathering, and to then speak in ways that open a field of hearts to the word that is given in Jesus. And that is coming to me as a powerful challenge to all of us. In these first moments as we gather again in this upper room of our church buildings, where does our hoping and our expecting lie? Are we praying for the interruptions of the Spirit into our lives? Are we ready for these new interruptions of the Spirit, after it has been interrupted and affected in this last year, all that has been changed and disrupted, are we ready to call upon the Lord to interrupt us, to disturb us, and to shake us up? Are we ready for the Lord to work in our midst, to bear the fruit of the blessing to others? Are we ready for the Lord to work?